Just give it a little second. Hi, today's episode or chat is around there are two experts in addiction recovery. And just to let you know, if you don't know who I am and you're new to my channel, my name is Ashley. I'm an addictions therapist. I also am a therapist with trauma and childhood development. I've overcame addiction, which I think is the thing that qualifies us the most to be talking about addiction. I have studied it right up until PhD level, and I've also felt what it feels like to have a loved one who struggles with addiction. So today's topic, as I said, is about there are two experts in addiction recovery. Hi, I'm just going to say hello to people. Hi, Terminator and Peace and Joy. How are you doing? So the two experts is obviously we've got healthcare professionals, and I will always say lean into it, especially with certain addictions that we've got. But the other expert is yourself. And one of the first things that I learned in counselling training is that the client is always the expert. You know you best. And if you can leverage that by learning as much as possible about what is going on, why you are where you are, and doing it from an objective standpoint, when you walk into that room, whether it's with counsellors, whether it's with people who are addiction services, you are going to be able to co-create a path which is going to work for you specifically. I think one of the mistakes that we make when we work with healthcare professionals, I'm talking about GP right up to psychiatrists, is we go in thinking that they're the expert and they're going to know. But actually what we need to realise is when we walk into that room, that person only has very minimal knowledge about us. They do understand everything else in their field, but you are the expert in your field. So the more we learn about ourselves and what's gone on and what's got us to this point, then what we'll be able to do is provide as much information, and then from there the professionals can help us. And I think this is especially important in addiction, because addiction's a symptom. It's a form of self-medication for something else going on underneath. So if we're just going in and talking about the symptom, but we're not talking about the actual root cause, the thing that's actually going on underneath, and we've got no knowledge of that, then we're just dealing with the addiction at a very surface level, which isn't helpful. So what we'll find is actually maybe there's trauma underneath, or maybe there's situations going on in my life which actually also need to be addressed. So yeah, get keen on learning about yourself, learning about your body, learning about your brain, and when you go into that appointment, you'll have a much better experience. Oh, what's going on here? Right, let's see what people are saying. Oh, hi Chris, how are you doing? Chris is my lovely moderator. And hi Marcus. So the reason why I talk about this is, as a therapist, I've worked with a lot of clients, and there's a subset of clients which tend to do really well. So they'll come into counselling and they just fly through it. You see week after week change. And then you've got other clients who come in who seem to be a lot more stuck, and it takes a lot longer, the process. And actually, when you're working in services, usually they're only allocated X amount of sessions. And one thing that I sharp realised is, because I do pattern recognition with me little ND brain, one thing I realise is the clients who fly through it and who get the most out of therapy are the ones who are actually understanding themselves. They're going away, whatever we spoke about, they're then building on, and they're coming back into the room with a key outline of what they want to be doing, what they already understand, and then I get to, as a professional, apply my knowledge to that. So they're coming in and meeting us as expert to expert. I'm expert in the field, they're expert in themselves. So there's a really noticeable difference for those people who really try to understand themselves. And this is something that you can do which not only will help you in whatever service you're leaning on, but it'll also mean that you're being proactive. And when we're proactive and we're getting wins and we're making progress, that produces dopamine, which is the same thing that we produce when we're flooding our brains with whatever addiction it is. So yeah, just to let you know, I'm a therapist, so if anyone has any questions around addiction or mental health, do ask and I will do my best to answer. Hi Dave, how are you doing? Chris, is there a good way to determine if a professional is a good fit for an individual? If so, how do you determine that? That is such a good question. Yeah, so as a professional myself, I am fully aware that it's not one shoe fits all. So that works on two levels. So we've got the therapists themselves, if they're good for you. So it's really important when we are working with any healthcare professional that we'll have rapport with them. Because if we think about it, we're being super vulnerable. We're opening up about our past. We're opening up about things which might have shame attached to them. So to be able to do that, we need to have some level of rapport with the professional. And that doesn't matter which professional it is. It could be your GP, it could be anything. And the way to do that is just test, like, did I feel seen? Did they connect with us? And if we understand that not everyone's going to be your cup of tea, what we can do is we can go in and think, okay, I'm an individual, and all humans, there's some people we get on with, there's some people we don't. There's some people who speak our language, there's some people who don't pick up what we're putting down. So just go into it and think, how comfortable did I feel with that person? Did they get me on a relational level? Because that is the fundamental thing. In my type of counselling that I learned, I did my training, it's called person-centered therapy, and it's solely the sole thing that you need in this therapy is to create a relationship with your client, because it's the single most important thing for therapy to work. So yeah, I would check in with yourself, how comfortable did I feel with them? So there was two levels I said about this. Let's think again. If it's a good fit for the individual, how do you determine that? I had a train of thought and I've talked myself away from the train of thought. I'll try and have a little think about that. I don't know, my brain's, it's escaped us. I'll know it'll come back to us if I just stop focusing on it. So yeah, it's really important that we have a good rapport with the person. The other thing is as well, like when we're working with therapists or any healthcare professional, it's good to recognize that. Oh, so this was the other thing. I knew it would come back to it. So we've got the relationship with the person is really important, because we're going to be sharing vulnerable aspects of ourselves. But on the flip side of that, it's recognizing that there's not one shoe fits all for anything mental health, whether that's addiction, anxiety, whatever it is. It's not one shoe fits all, because if it was, there would be one type of counselling, there would be one strategy which worked, one pill which worked, and that's just not true. So it's also good to, when you go into the counselling arena or with GPs or whatever, is to be aware that this is just one thing that I'm trying. And if it doesn't work, don't feel disheartened. Just think, okay, that hasn't worked for me. That's okay. I'm a complex human being. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board. Don't just accept that a professional's told us this is what I need to do, therefore it's right. And it might be that the professional you're working with is only trained in one area. So if you look at counselling, I've been trained in multiple different modalities of counselling, but a lot of counsellors maybe only have training in one area. So it might just be that that particular type of counselling isn't suitable for you. And that's okay. Just be open and honest. They shouldn't get offended, and then go back to the drawing board and see it as a win. I know that didn't work. We've crossed something off the list. That means I'm one step closer to where I need to be. And I think just being aware that the person and the type of therapy you're using might not be for you. If we're aware, then we can go into that room and be brutally honest and say, this isn't working. Whereas I think sometimes we think, oh God, this expert's up here and we're down here. It's not true. Foxy, hi, how are you doing, Foxy? It's nice to see you back. And Psychedelic, hello. Omar, amazing eyes, thank you. Oh, there's also a link in the bio. Yes, so Chris is saying there's a link in my bio which will direct you to my website. Like and subscribe, that would be helpful. Yes, but if anyone has a question or wants some one-to-one support, then do go through my website. I do try and support as many people offline as well as on. So yeah, thank you for that. So yesterday, Psychedelic saying, yesterday I was by a friend, we made electronic music and I drunk beer. Don't take amphetamine or smoke weed like them. I'm a little proud because I think it didn't work for me. Yeah, I think that's, so you're saying you're proud because the alcohol didn't work for you, or you're proud because you didn't smoke weed? I feel like you're saying you're proud because you're in a situation that usually would have been triggered. Because I imagine weed, people doing your drug of choice plus music, the two tend to go hand in hand, drugs and music, let's be real. So the fact that you've managed to do that is absolutely a win, and I'm glad you're focusing on the win as well. Drac, you look amazing, thank you. Blue Nose Music Addict, how are you doing? Have a great day. Yeah, you too. How are you doing? Yeah, so the other thing when we're working with mental health professionals, it's okay to challenge them as well. Sometimes we don't challenge, so we sit there feeling frustrated, like this isn't working, and we just accept our fate because we think they're a professional. And actually, we've got to remember that we're the expert in us, but also them not mind readers. So for me, it's been so helpful when somebody's actually been open and honest and said, there's something not right here, or that hasn't been helpful, or this isn't working, and they've just been open and honest, because then it lets me go, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. This isn't working for them. Let's mix it up and try something different. So again, just recognizing that you're the expert when you go into these situations, we can start to have the mindset of like, oh, my voice is valid, my opinion's valid, and actually it's going to be quite helpful because I'm teaching them about me, they're teaching me about whatever field it is that they've learned. So yeah. Hi William, how you doing? I didn't realise I'd missed your message. Psychedelic, I don't smoke weed because it's my biggest problem. Weed, and then to push myself with amphetamine. With beer, I don't have problems. Only first place weed, then amphetamine. Yeah, I'm the same. Like, alcohol isn't really a problem. The only problem I have with alcohol is the fact that it makes us get beer fear for a couple of days after, get really anxious. But it was never my DOC, like drug of choice or addiction. So yeah, I think that's a massive win that you've been able to go and be around people who are doing your drug of choice and you've managed to not do it. What do you think's been a turning point that you've been able to do that? And that's the thing, so I was talking about triggers in addiction on Wednesday, and the thing with triggers is we always get told to remove triggers, but there's going to be some triggers where we can't fully remove them. And I think it's about sometimes just removing yourself from everything and then slowly introducing the triggers in a strategic way and being in control of that trigger. So, for example, what it seems like psychedelics done is they've taken a gap from this situation, focused on getting over the weed addiction, and then slowly on his own terms introduced himself into those environments again, and then reflected on it after. So that's also really important with triggers, is to reflect. I don't know if you did this psychedelic, but I find with triggers what's really helpful as well is if you have a plan. So you're going into the trigger and you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do to protect myself? So if it's alcohol addiction, it might be, I'm going to buy some non-alcoholic beers. Or if it's weed, it's like, okay, I am going to do alcohol, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to take a bit of a gap so that I know that I can handle this. Drac, I don't know if I'm saying that right. So I am severely tobacco addicted. I did all other drugs under the sun and quit them, from weed to coke, but I just can't seem to kick tobacco. It makes me feel in control. Drac, I'm exactly the same. So I've managed to get away from tobacco, but I've switched to vapes. I am doing a free addiction group and I'm going to be stopping with yous. So, because I set myself the goal of getting rid of my last addiction this year, but it's really tough because it's chemically addictive. And what you've just named there, so one thing that you've done, Drac, is you've identified why this addiction's still got to cling on you compared to your other ones, and it's because it makes you feel in control. And I feel the same. It's about slightly different. It's about regulating my nervous system. When I'm stressed, if I have a vape, it calms us down. So what I've had to do is work on regulating my nervous system, but it is chemically addictive. And I wonder how long you've been smoking tobacco. I imagine it's quite a long time. So I've been smoking it since I was 12. I'm now 36. So my brain is developed with tobacco in it. So yeah, it is a difficult one, but if you want someone, I can certainly help you, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've managed to do it myself. I've done it twice, and then both times, stupidly, and it's so ridiculous because I knew that this was not the right thing to do, but I did it anyways, is I made excuses and paid attention to the excuses and then ended up in the same boat, relapsing. And that's the thing, because it's chemically addictive, it doesn't take long for you to rely on it. So there's different addictions have different impacts on us. So we have physical addiction, like chemical addiction, and psychological addiction. And there's a few things which have both, but that is benzocaines, opioids, alcohol, tobacco. And you're having to deal with two sides of an addiction. So we think smoking, it doesn't sound as bad if it is something like my addiction was ketamine or cocaine. We think it doesn't sound as bad, but actually you're dealing with two types of addiction. Your body's dependent on it and your mind's dependent on it. So you need to tackle both at the same time. And it's really tough, but doable. Cormac, hello, nice to see you again. How are you doing? I'm doing great, thank you. Oh, thanks for saying I look pretty. Yeah, I've been eating much better actually and stuff, so paying attention to my physical health, which I think makes a difference to how you look. Chris, psychedelic, that's amazing. Be a lot of proud. Yeah, psychedelic is smashing it. He comes on most lives and he's absolutely smashing addiction recovery. Psychedelic's a really good example of somebody who knows themselves inside out. So the best thing we can do, like I've already said in the beginning, is remember that we're the expert and learn about ourselves and learn about our addictions, so that when we're dealing with professionals or we're dealing with addiction recovery, we've got as much information as possible. Information is power. It really is. But yeah, he's smashing it. Drac, yes, I also think psychedelics should be categorized as drugs. As we do speed or come, it's completely different ballpark. What do you mean psychedelics should be categorized as drugs? I feel like, are psychedelics are classed as drugs? I don't know if I'm misunderstanding that. Can you clarify, please? FS, how are you all? I'm doing good. How's everybody else doing? Morning, Duncan the English Giant. How are you doing? So, Drac, I've been smoking since 12, 13, now I'm 32. Yeah, this is a problem with smoking. A lot of people start smoking when they're younger. So we get addicted to it's not even just smoking. So the majority of addictions start before the age of 25. We're already dabbling and using it. It's just, the difference is when we're younger, it's not noticeable as addiction because everybody's doing the thing. Everybody's smoking, everybody's drinking all the time, everybody's taking recreational drugs. So we don't realise that we've got an addiction. But what we're doing is, while our brain is still developing rapidly up until 25 to 27, we're changing our brain chemistry. So one thing that people don't realise is, like, your brain is wired up, providing you started that addiction when you were younger, to have that addiction in your system. So it's really difficult to deal with addiction. And we're doing it really impulsively because before the age of 25 to 27, our frontal lobe isn't fully developed, which is all rational thinking and impulse control. So we're doing things without even thinking about the consequence because we're not wired up yet to think of consequence, which is actually an evolutionary thing. But it's not ideal for addiction. So yeah, it is really hard. And I think sometimes recognizing that, okay, that's why it's hard, makes it a little bit easier. Like I say, knowledge is power, guys. Are you from Australia? No, I'm not. I'm from Newcastle in England. So, Jamesy, hello, Jamesy. Susceptibility and environmental factors are most paramount in Newcastle. Yeah, it is everywhere, to be honest with you, but yeah, it is rife in Newcastle. The thing is, so it's actually very normal for people to take drugs and alcohol, especially at a young age. It's part of socializing. So the susceptibility is something that's like a bit of a silent thing. So you have, say we have 30 people, and 30 people are recreationally taking drugs and alcohol with their peers. So we're young, we're enjoying the fun, we're going out on the party and the session, we're just enjoying life. So you might have 30 people doing it, but there might be 10 people out of those 30 people who have underlying mental health disorders, who develop other health disorders like fibromyalgia, etc., or who have unresolved trauma or attachment style issues. And these 10 people are the same as the other 30, the other 20 people. So everyone's doing it for a bit of fun, except for these 20 people, eventually, they're like, all right, so now my career's becoming a bit more important. Now I've got a partner and kids. And it's when they drop off and hang up their party boots, these 10 people are like, whoa, hang on a minute. I'm not hanging up my party boots, what's going on? So they've always been susceptible. They just didn't realise because they're blending in with the crowd. And then all of a sudden these 10 people are thinking, oh my God, like I've got a moral failing. I'm the addict, and they're shaming themselves. But what they don't realise is they were more susceptible to addiction in the first place. And when it was recreational, it didn't show its teeth until they've went. So yeah, which again, understanding why we were susceptible in the first place is key to overcoming it. Lucky, high greens never killed anyone, do nothing else. Do you mean weed? I think it's just like, look, I'm not here to sit here and say, don't do this, like stop taking drugs. Like if it's working for you and you enjoy it, great. But I do know people who have been severely impacted by weed, severely impacted. So it's, each person to their own. Psychedelics are misused, Jamie. Yeah, I mean, anything can be misused, really, and anything can be misused. So I'm not going to argue with that. Solowski, your stream is like a warm hug. Thank you. That is a very high compliment. I appreciate it. Covering up on an experiment our own understanding of ourselves. Yeah. Do you mean psychedelics are covering up our own understanding of ourselves? So psychedelics, actually, there's a lot of research showing that it can be really helpful in addiction recovery, mental health, trauma. They've got a lot of research on veterans. So, but that's in trauma assisted therapy. So it's psychedelic assisted therapy, sorry. So it can be really helpful because what psychedelics do is they make your neuroplasticity in your brain really malleable, which means that for the days after you take psychedelics, what you can do is rewire your brain. And when we're rewiring our brain, it can be quite a long process, but that allows the neuroplasticity for you to break it down and create new neural pathways a lot easier. So that's why it's shown as quite promising, but there are issues because we can become addicted. People can become addicted to anything. I know people who's had addiction to MDMA. Now, personally, I couldn't think of anything worse than buzzing off my nut on ecstasy every day, but I know people who've been addicted. So it's all about the individual person. Right, psychedelic. I meet my friend only because we wanted to make some music, and it's not about taking something. If you have nothing to do, only to chill, I think it's a bad idea. Yeah, I think that's the thing is as well, psychedelic. So when we come out of addiction recovery, what happens is often we remove ourselves from triggers because we have to. The cravings are really intense, certainly in the first 3 months. The first 3 weeks, it not only are the cravings super intense, but our brain is dysregulated, so we feel like shit and we've got intense cravings. So often what happens is people, quite rightly, remove themselves from things in life. Also, when you're in addiction recovery, what you are faced with is the fact that, okay, my whole identity revolved around being an addict, and now I don't know what my identity is. So then what is helpful is to start reintroducing things. But the difficulty is so for instance, psychedelic, to use as an example, enjoys music. So, okay, I want to enjoy music and these are my friends. I want to spend time with my friends. I'm going to have to introduce myself, but you're walking into a trigger because you will naturally associate them people and music with smoke and weed. But if you can go into it intentionally and you can do what psychedelics done, eventually you'll start to break down that association. And if we think about it, it's all neuroscience. Like, our brains are very associative. So if you start to associate friends and music with not smoking weed, and you protect yourself to do that, then you'll be able to do the things you enjoy and start reintegrating bits from your old identity and start to create a new identity alongside that. She's like a big bird now. I don't know, a big bird? I don't know what that means. Right, Chris. From a Christian point of view, trust in the one helping you and complete abandon is key to start the process of freedom and rewiring your brain. It takes the one helping you priority in a healthy way. Yes, but look, spirituality massively helped me. And I think the problem is when you're coming out of addiction, so I'm not going to push faith, I'm going to do this in a way where people who aren't spiritual and religious can't apply it. But the problem is when we come out of addiction recovery, we're in this like little window of limbo, which actually varies from person to person, where we're like, okay, that's my old life and identity. I haven't yet created my new life and identity. So I'm sat here feeling like shit, feeling very alone. I don't have my new people, my new vibes, my new interests. I haven't got my old ones. And I'm just sat here going through one of the most vulnerable times in my life, feeling like I've been kicked to the floor. And I just feel alone and shit. And that's a really hard spot to be in. So this is where faith and spirituality, if you have it, can be really, really helpful. The other thing to do is just recognize that, okay, I'm already dealing with addiction recovery. I'm dealing with whatever's coming up to the surface that I've been numbing. I don't know what to do with my life. So at the very least, I need connection. And this is where addiction groups can be really helpful because you're connecting with like-minded people, inspiring people. But that might also be leaning into connections that maybe you've lost because of your addiction, or putting yourself in spots where you can meet new people. But yeah, I think what Chris is talking about is connection. And that can be connection to a higher power or just humanity. Jamesy from Crowcook, not far from Newcastle. Is that in Durham? Let the beat control your mind. I love that. Music got me through. This is why I've got a Pink Floyd tattoo on us. This literally got us through. Got us through. I was just listening to Brain Damage continuously. But yeah, music is so helpful. It does mint things to your brain as well when you look at the neuroscience. Track. Sorry, English is not my first language. I'm from Holland. So I meant psychedelics shouldn't be categorized as drugs like we do with speed or cocaine. Psychedelics are in a completely different ballpark. Yeah, the only thing with psychedelics, so I do agree. The only thing with psychedelics is, though, I know people who've been sectioned from it. So the thing with psychedelics is, you know, if you imagine somebody with a sensitive brain, and I'm one of those people, it can be quite dangerous to then alter your reality. And also, if somebody has a bad trip, it can actually alter your brain chemistry. So I fully get what you're saying. I do agree to an extent. But I also think if we're looking at about, it's more of like a protection thing for those people. So that's where I would slightly disagree because of that reason. Okay, now to talk about funny things. We're going to talk about funny things. You're also Dutch. I mean, this is the only place in Holland I've been to is Amsterdam, but I've been a few times. I absolutely love it. It's so beautiful. Oh, my sweater is the fur off Big Bird. Yeah, making a little statement. Jamesy, this way, that way, over the Irish Sea, a bottle of rum inside my tum, and that's the life for me. Oh my God, alcohol, do not go well. That would not be my life. Neurological connections to serotonin and dopamine. Yeah, I assume you're talking about addiction. But like, serotonin plays a huge role in our mental health as well. So like, trying to produce serotonin naturally can be really helpful. So that's all, and it's majority of it's produced in our gut. So paying attention to what you eat can be really helpful in addiction recovery. Try and boost your serotonin. Also, you can get 5-HTC, which helps produce serotonin. I used to have that after taking ecstasy. Yeah, just a little top tip. But yeah, it's really good. If 5-HTC is good for producing serotonin, because when we come out of addiction recovery, our dopamine is going to be really depleted, and our serotonin with certain addictions can be also screwed. Love this. So glad for your channel. Education and support for substance misuse is so important. It affects so many people. We need more people like you in the world. Thank you. Yeah, it is. I think there's a lot of things that I think healthcare professionals understand, but I think as a society, we tend to misunderstand addiction very severely, and it really does impact people accessing support. So, Tabazon, much love from the USA. Thank you. Bag off, fuck the USA. I've got the Dutch, is it? Fighting back. And the peptides we create diminish. What are peptides, James? I don't know what they are. I'm always happy to learn something new though. It's a spiral. What do you mean? Oh, you live in the Netherlands. The only thing after addiction is dissolving yourself and starting again from scratch. No other way. If truly addict. Yeah, you do have to dissolve yourself and start from scratch. And this is the thing with any mental health. So the way I learned about it was, if you imagine when a client comes in, if you think about it, we've been lugging all this stuff in a big backpack, and this backpack is now our identity, and it consists of all our traumas, all of our belief systems, how we understand and experience the world, our behaviors, our addictions, whatever it is, our mental health disorders, and it's all in this backpack. And the best thing that we can do is take everything out of the backpack and decide, do I really need this? So it's not about completely erasing yourself, but there's a process where we need to unpack ourselves and think about, okay, is this stuff helpful? Like, am I just lugging around dead weight, which is actually impairing my quality of life? And if I am, I need to get rid of it. Maybe I want to upgrade it. Maybe I'm like, I don't know, carrying around a Walkman, which we don't need. I can just use my phone for music, whatever it is. We could just get rid of these things or upgrade them and just become lighter. And I think that is what you need to do. You need to dissolve yourself by thinking, okay, who do I want to be? Like, is this stuff serving us? Are these thought patterns serving us? Is this something I need to address? Drac, yes, I've been addicted to XTC, but my mum died when I was like 5-6 years old, and XTC made my body flood with this warm feeling that made me think, of a safe mum hugging us. So I did a lot at home. That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. And actually, Gabor Mate describes it. So there was somebody who was a sex worker who was addicted to heroin, and she used the exact wording, it felt like a warm hug. But that makes absolute sense. Oh, someone's at my door. Guys, I'm going to have to cut this off early because I've got Christmas presents. So sorry about that, but I will be back on tonight at 10. Bye.